Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. O.P. Verma from Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Today we are going to talk on module Levels of Organizational Change, Individual Change, from paper Organizational Change and Development. After completing the module, you will be able to understand the meaning and importance of organizational change at individual level, the nature of individual level organizational change, organizational development strategy, different organizational development interventions for managing change at individual level. Let's start with the introduction. To achieve sustainable competitive edge over the rivals, an organization must remain flexible enough so as to facilitate any change which is the requirement of the present situation. As we know that people working at different levels in any organization holds a certain position to initiate and implement change effectively. The question here arises that how people are convinced to implement the particular change which the management is striving hard to achieve. When any change is introduced in the organization, those who are more affected by the change often revoke the change. Many conflicting and opposite suggestions are given by subordinates, co-workers, managers, informal work groups, friends, or those who have influence effect on the individual. This disapproval and suspicion leads towards contradictory attitude of employees for the change. The raised conflict can be resolved with the mediation of the management by realizing the task force and individual needs, values, and future prospects are taken care of while deciding on the whole process. Their perception and understanding of cost and benefits of change can be resolved well if they are made completely aware of the need for change and its implication. Organizational change can be viewed from two perspectives. Either it can be gradual but continuous change, or it can be a bold, dramatic, transformative step. For any kind of modification, first of all, management needs to incorporate people-oriented change in order to facilitate the other strategic, structural, or process-oriented changes. People-oriented change includes change directed at the attitude, behavior, skill, or performance of the employees working in the organization. It is actually the most crucial task for the management. Therefore, the change agent needs to understand the general psychology of the people with regard to change. Here, the best solution which can be applied is organizational development techniques, creating a win-win situation for both the workforce as well as the organization. When the employees are satisfied that the change is ought to bring growth and development prospects from them also, then they will be collectively participate in facilitating the successful implementation of the change. Managing organizational change at individual level. The success of an organization lies in the caliber of its people and their working attitude. The organizational structure, strategy, system, as well as the process is although necessary, but they do not act as driving force to change. It is the people which can make change happen. By using the knowledge, skill, ideas, and experience of working group, all the other physical resources which organization holds are put to productive use. Thus, any change program has to be in agreement with the people forming an essential part of the entity. Organizations change in context to individuals is basically concerned with changing people, attitude, perception, expectations, behavior through the process of communication, participation in decision making, and problem solving. It demands from employees working on different levels in an organization to make a shift from their present situation and behavior pattern and adjust themselves to a new situation. One of the greatest misunderstandings which prevail here is that management assumes that people easily accommodate their behavior while adjusting with the change. However, the fact is human beings are more comfortable with stability and continuity. That's why they naturally resist change. Here, organizational development interventions can be applied as a facilitating tool for planned change, which is basically built on humanistic democratic values that seek to improve organizational effectiveness and employee well-being altogether. Employees' attitude with regard to change. It is certainly a fact that for properly managing the change, the organizational strategy, system, and resources are necessarily to be altered, but at the end, individual is the one who bring about the working of these variables. Generally, there is a wide range of responses that can be received by the individuals, ranging from extremely positive to extremely negative. Aggressive, resistance, passive, resistance, neutral, passive, acceptance, active, involvement. Aggressive resistance can be received from the individual in the way of criticism for the change effort, encouraging a strong resistance to change. With this kind of reaction, the organization is confronted with non-cooperation from the employees in the implementation of any change initiative. Passive resistance could in the shape of fake attitude of the employees that they are in favor of the change, but actually they wanted to develop a non-cooperative attitude towards the change process. In this, the employees delay the change implementation. Neutral attitude towards the change shows an undecided attitude of the individuals in context with the change. These people can go either on negative or positive side, which depends on the condition that how much advantage the change situation is going to grant them. Passive acceptance is shown by those employees who intend to have a positive attitude towards the change, but they do not fully recognize the change. They opt a kind of wait and watch situation to see the trend effect of the change before giving a complete commitment to the change. Action can be seen from those employees who are often very positive with regard to the change and intend to put their complete effort in the implementation. These individuals are highly adaptive in nature, whether it calls for restructuring their work design or rather structural design and took initiative to learn new skill. Organizational development interventions at individual level. The objective of the organizational development lies on the fact that to implement any change successfully, it is necessary to make it humanly responsive and projecting a scenario in which the organization as well as the employees providing their services are simultaneously benefited. In other words, there is a higher quality of work, life, and higher productivity and organizational effectiveness at the same time. Organizational development interventions will ensure that the equilibrium is maintained between the organization as well as the employees working in the organization. The kind of intervention that are applied for the individual development are sensitivity training, survey feedback, process consultation, team building, intergroup development, education and training activities, coaching and counseling activities, life and career planning activities, third-party peacemaking activities, behavioral modeling. The detailed explanations of the above-mentioned interventions are given below. Sensitivity training. The sensitivity training, also known as the T group training, refers to a training session, the purpose of which is to change the behavior of people working in an organization with the help of unstructured group interactions. It is a kind of discussion which follows no particular norms of interaction and has no leader to facilitate the interaction. Mainly members are brought together in a free and open environment, away from their workplace, in which participants talk and discuss freely, following no formal structure for discussion. If there is any facilitator, then its job is mainly to create opportunities for members to express their ideas, beliefs, which further helps the members to develop an awareness and sensitivity to oneself and others. The main focus of the whole session is to increase openness towards each other, greater concern for the needs of others also. Lessen the cultural differences, increase tolerance for the other behaviors, and establish standards of behavior. If the individual lacks awareness of how others understands them, then sensitivity training can prove to be more useful in reducing interpersonal conflicts as well as better integration between the individual and the organization. Survey feedback. Survey feedback is a kind of organizational development technique which is mainly adopted to check and identify the problem areas by collecting information from the employees on various issues directed at improving relationships in the organization. Mainly after the survey is done, discrepancies are sought out and solved immediately. To have a systematic collection and measurement of human resources in the organization, an anonymous questionnaire is formed. A wide range of topics that are covered by the questionnaire is formed based on decision-making practices, communication, coordination, and satisfaction with the organization as well as with its work group. The steps which are involved in the survey feedback are: Step 1. Collection of the data. This step is basically concerned with collecting the information regarding various questions related to different topics. A well-structured questionnaire is prepared covering all the questions concerning relevant topics. The questions are mainly found with the help of proper scaling and measurement tools to plan the perception correctly on the scale. Step 2. Presentation of the collected data. The results obtained after the collection of data are presented to the concerned units of organization. Thus, the collected data then become a reliable source of information for the identification of the problem and emerging issues. Step 3. Data analysis and decision making. After going through the entire data collected and carefully analyzed, forming interrelationship between different aspects, attention is given to the importance of encouraging discussions and adopting a participatory method. Process consultation. It is a technique which is more or less similar to the sensitivity training, as both deals with increasing organizational effectiveness by directly concentrated on managing all the working dynamics in the unit. But sometimes they fail to assess correctly what can be improved and how it can be improved. In such situation, management often takes the advisory and consultancy services of the outsiders who are experts in their respective fields. In that case, the outside organization development change agent acts as a catalyst and helps the manager to identify, understand, and acts upon process and events which the manager must deal. The problem areas in which the consultancy services might be serving include communication channel, interpersonal relationship pattern, and workflow activities. Here it is important to mention that the process consultant's job is mainly to give its clients an insight to identify the problem areas. The consultants mainly acts as a guide to advise his or her client in solving the emerged problem. Also, the problem which is resolved is a joint effort of both the consultant as well as the manager. The joint exercise is performed for the reason that consultant is employed for the short period of time, but manager might face the same problem again in the future. So as to resolve that issue, the emphasis should be mainly on joint effort by both the manager and the consultant. Team building. The best example that we can take here to understand the concept of team building are quality circles. These circles are a group of 5 to 6 members who periodically meet at different interval of time and systematically discuss the various problems confronting their work so as to take corrective measures in time. Similarly, organizations are also made up of people working together to achieve common goals. Since the people are required to work together in a team for achieving collective objectives, organizational development techniques focuses on team building. The objective behind the team building is to improve coordinative efforts of team members, which will result in the increased group performances at the end. The activities which are typically involved in the team building are collective goal setting, developing cordial interpersonal relationship, clarity to interpersonal and group role and responsibility. The focus is basically put on for developing trust, respect, openness, learning, attitude, and behavior pattern among members. Team building is primarily aimed at helping the group in task as well as goal accomplishment. and for that it follows a three-step process. At the initial stage, the group leaders starts with defining the problem necessitating organizational change. Further, at the next stage, the problem is analyzed critically and probable reasons behind the development of the problem are sussed out. In the last stage, the working solutions for the problem are being sussed out. Different alternative solutions are examined, and out of the different alternatives, the best one is selected. Here the team tries to focus on building a consensus for the solution with encouraging for discussion. Thus, team building serves its advantage in the manner as it helps to secure commitment from the participation of the group members in achieving the desired change. Intergroup development. The organizational development techniques aim to eliminate the misconception that different groups holds for each other. Because of the existence of conflicts between groups, organizational change effort has to be directed towards improving intergroup relations. Intergroup development seeks to change the attitude, behavior, and perception of different groups. There are many approaches for intergroup development, but the popular one is problem-solving technique. In this technique, different group members meet and both sides enlist their perception about themselves and also about the other group. After this, both the group exchanges the list and thereafter similarities and differences are discussed. The differences are clearly mentioned and sought out on priority basis. Education and training activities. For the development of individual working in the organization, education and training activities can also be applied in order to fulfill the objective. It can be implemented so as to increase the skill, knowledge, abilities, and experience of the individual. Several activities as well as approaches can be applied to educate the employees in their respective technical tasks. When it comes to resolving interpersonal conflicts, various interaction sessions can be applied to develop cordial intergroup relations. The activities may also be directed towards leadership issues, taking authority and responsibilities of new task areas, problem solving regarding setting their own goal and decision making, etc. Coaching and counseling activities. These activities can be used time and again as a guiding tool for the individual working so as to provide them with necessary assistance whenever required. Activities which ensure the consultants or the change agent who are dealing with the individuals to make them capable of defining their own goals, learn and understand the behavior of others, and try to understand their own behavior as well by making familiar with their capabilities to achieve set objectives. Life and career planning activities. In order to develop the individual, it is essential that their life and career objectives must be kept in center. Activities need to be designed in such a way that they direct the individual in achieving their life and career prospects. These structured training activities involve assessing individual career objectives, assessing their present capabilities as well as the gap, finalizing the training requirement accordingly, and working on the strength and weakness of the individual. The 5 career anchors that can be focused here relates to developing the technical/functional competence, improving the managerial competence, enhancing the creativity, providing a stable and secure future, extending the autonomy. Third party peacemaking activities. These activities mainly focus on resolving intergroup differences if it exists in an organization. A third party is involved directly or indirectly for the facilitation of dialogue between the parties and for consultation purpose. But for that purpose, the third party must know how, when, and where to utilize confrontation tactics that unveils the conflict. Activities conducted by the experienced consultant acting as a third party help two members of the organization manage their interpersonal conflict. These activities primarily focus on increasing the interaction between the individuals and eliminating the causes for the conflict. Behavioral modeling. It is a training technique which is basically designed for the improvement of interpersonal skills. It is a kind of problem-solving technique consisting on 5 behavioral skills: the ability to describe the behavior of self as well as other, the ability to explain the impact of observed behavior, the ability of active listening, the ability of participation in solving the work-related problem, and the ability of positive reinforcement by complementing others. Practically, in the training sessions, the problem is described to the participants. Afterwards, participants solve the problem by enacting the whole situation using behavioral skills. The trainee role plays the entire situation and at the end of the session receives feedbacks from the trainer as well as the other participants. Role playing continues till the time each participant master all the specific behavioral skill. Thus, this model deals with teaching the skill and behavior which are required to deal with interpersonal problems. Let's summarize what we have learned in this module. The trend of the 21st century is making organization adaptive. The forces which initiate the change are also at the same time resisted by many factors. The most important factor here in the organizations which respond to change is the individual or the workforce. While some people respond to change positively, there are some others who respond to change negatively. Change leaders need to understand why people are reacting towards the change negatively. They need to rethink and redesign their assumption as well as the strategy to deal with the resistance and satisfy the factors which are resisting with the valid reasons. Here, it is noteworthy that people's reaction to change can occur at any time. It can occur before the implementation of the change, after the implementation of the change, as well as it can affect the change during the transition process. So, to avoid any kind of disruption, management need to strategize the whole situation. Now the responsibility here lies on the management to effectively mold their human resources in such a way that ultimately they become the change agent or the driving forces for the change to happen. To supplement the change efforts by giving the employees a chance to development can prove to be fruitful. Various organization development interventions are available to complement the purpose. But the major task here is to choose the strategy in accordance with the recipients' personalities, their reaction and experience with the change, their attitude and opinion. The management or the change agent here needs to consider the task of minimizing the negative effect and at the same time encouraging the change leaders to become the change implementers themselves. Thank you.